The other thing that I think is interesting here goes more to the open source versus closed source debate, and also weaves in with the culture conversation we've been alluding to throughout this, in that there's only 100, maybe 200 people that fundamentally understand AI at the core level. And the reality is, the bidding for that talent among the most well capitalized companies in the world has never been hotter. Meta doesn't have as many of those folks
Hmm.
as OpenAI, as Anthropic, probably as xAI, definitely Google in their DeepMind division. So Meta's at a talent dearth when it comes to this particular vector. So obviously they went open source because they tried to basically outsource that talent. Now, what we've learned over the last few months of open source is the open source models that are actually keeping up, i.e., China models, have done so mostly through espionage or similar kind of tactics for these state of the art models, right? They're basically just ripping off Anthropic and OpenAI models, mimicking them, and then throwing them up as open source. That's not building an open source model, right? That's stealing
Hmm.
and relabeling. And so Meta can't do that because they fundamentally, have increased restrictions that a Chinese company or other company that is simply not really playing by the rules, so to speak, aren't going to have. And so I think there's a larger conversation that this tees up with respect to, are open source models actually going to keep up with state of the art closed models? My belief has always kind of been no, but I think you can make a rational argument for why you believe open source will catch up and eventually maybe even will be ahead. Again, it wouldn't be my opinion, but I think you can make it. But then the third part of the stool, which I think is the most interesting to kind of continue to elaborate on, is the fact that the talent is so sparse and is so highly coveted in this world, brings us full circle back to where I think the Anthropic and uh, Department of War conversation really becomes interesting. Um, my understanding is that a lot of the employees at Anthropic had serious aversion to the way that Anthropic models were potentially being used in these various Department of War missions, basically, right? Whether it's capturing of foreign leaders, whether it's bombing of foreign countries. They had serious aversion to that. And the reality is, regardless of what the leadership of those companies think, they have to keep that talent. That's number one.
Hmm.
Else they fall behind. And falling behind is existential for these companies. They have to keep raising money and they have to be perceived as being on the edge, else they die. That company is dead if they can't keep up, they can't keep raising because they're not cash flow positive and they have no way to be cash flow positive at the capex